Today everyone, I'm gonna tackle about critical reasoning. My content is first, defining critical reasoning, second, elements of argument, third is elements of reasoning. First, what is critical reasoning? Critical reasoning, it involves the ability to actively and skillfully conceptualize, analyze, question, and evaluate ideas and beliefs. Sometimes critical reasoning is made up by our common sense. For example, there is a hurricane outside, but I say that it is a good day for walking and get some fresh air. You know that had something wrong with my argument. But written and spoken arguments are often much more complicated, and the ability to think critically and judge the effectiveness of an argument. Next is the elements of an argument. So, let's start to the elements of an argument. There's an argument is end up with a debate. You don't need to elevate your blood pressure to have an argument. In fact, you don't even need another person to argue with. Next is the argument, premises, and conclusion. When we say argument, it is an attempt to persuade someone of something by giving reasons or evidence for accepting a particular conclusion. In argument, it has premises and conclusion. The next is a claim. A claim is a statement as opposed to a question or interjection. With the truth value, it is either true or false, although you may not know which. The conclusion of the argument is its main claim, what the arguer wants to see, do, or believe. The premises is claim or claims has to provide support, reason to accept the conclusion. To make an argument, you must articulate at least two claims. At least one of the claims must offer or attempt to offer support for the conclusion. I have an example of argument. The conclusion of each argument is underlined. I do not see Jane anywhere. She must not arrive yet. Next, a flat tax is the answer to our tax troubles. It would treat everyone fairly and would dramatically simplify the tax code. This would make filing taxes easier and make many Americans feel better about giving their money to the government. Notice in a second example of an argument offers several premises to support its conclusion. Point 1. A flat tax will treat everyone fairly. Point 2. A flat tax simplify the tax code. Point 3. A flat tax because it would simplify the tax code would make filing taxes easier. And point 4. A flat tax because it would treat everyone fairly would make filing Americans feels better about paying taxes. Of course, the more reasonable the premises and the more premises offered, the more convincing and effective the argument. It will often be clear to which in the claims in the argument is the conclusion, and many times you need to consider the argument carefully to determine the main claim. The following conclusion and premises indicator can help. So next is the elements of reasoning. We have 8 elements of reasoning. First, purpose, goal, end in view. Whenever we reason to some end, to achieve some objective, to satisfy some desire or fulfill some need. One source of the problems in student reasoning is traceable to defects at the level of goal, purpose, or end. If the goal is unrealistic, for example, or contradictory to other goals the student has, if it is confused or muddled in some way, the reasoning used to achieve it is problematic. Second element of reasoning is the question at issue or problem to be solved. Whenever we attempt to reason something out, there is at least one question at issue, at least one problem to be solved. One area of concern for assessing student reasoning, therefore, will be the formulation of the question to be answered or the problem to be solved, whether with respect to the student's own reasoning or to that of others. The third element of reasoning is the information, the empirical dimension of reasoning. Whenever we reason, there is some stuff, some phenomena about which we are reasoning. Any defect, then in the experiences, data, evidence, or raw material upon which a person reasoning is based is a possible source of problems. The fourth element of reasoning is the inferences. Reasoning proceeds by steps in which we reason as follows. Because this is so, that also is so, or probably so, or since this, therefore that. Any defect in such inferences is a possible source of problems in our reasoning. The fifth element of reasoning is the conceptual dimension of reasoning, which is all reasoning uses some ideas or concepts and not others. These concepts can include the theories, principles, axioms, and rules implicit in our reasoning. Any defect in the concepts or ideas of the reasoning is a possible source of problems in student reasoning. Next is the assumption. All reasoning must begin somewhere, must take some things for granted. Any defect in the assumption or presupposition with which the reasoning begins is a possible source of problems in student reasoning. Accessing skills of reasoning involves assessing their ability to recognize and articulate their assumption, again, according to the relevant standard. The student assumption may be stated clearly or clearly. The assumption may be justifiable or unjustifiable, crucial or extraneous, consistent or contradictory. The seventh element of reasoning is the implications and consequences, which is no matter where we stop our reasoning, it will always have further implications and consequences. As reasoning develops, statements will logically be entailed by it. Any defect in the implication or consequences of our reasoning is a possible source of problems. The ability to reason well is measured in part by an ability to understand and enunciate the implications and consequences of the reasoning. The last element of reasoning is the point of view or frame of reference. Whenever we reason, we must reason within some point of view or frame of reference. Any defect in that point of view or frame of reference is a possible source of problems in the reasoning. A point of view may be too narrow, too parochial, may be based on false or misleading analogies or metaphors, may contain contradictions, and so forth. It may be restricted or unfair. Alternatively, the student reasoning involving articulation of their point of view may meet the relevant standards to a significant degree. The point of view may be broad, flexible, fair. It may be clearly stated and consistently adhered to. That's all the elements of reasoning.